and good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Let's Grow with Yo-Yo. I have a very special show tonight, and I want you all to tune in and get an understanding. But before we do that, you know what I have to do? My Did You Know in Black History. Did you know that Missy Copeland was born September 1982 in Kansas City, Missouri? Missy became the first African American principal ballerina in 2015. A principal dancer is the highest ranking within a professional dance company. In her case, the American Ballet Theater. That is your Did You Know in Black History. Now, we do have some administrative things we have to take care of. Before I get started, Let's Grow with Yo-Yo is sponsored by Sparkle and More. You're right, your $5 paparazzi lady. She is me. I am her. And Eye Candy Love Accessories, where you could get your eyelashes. See my eyelashes, y'all? They're cute, they're cute, they're cute. Your purses, your sunshades, and all. You can go to eyecandylovebyb.com. eyecandylovebyb.com. It is eyecandy, LOVEE by B.com. All right. Well, y'all, I have a special guest in the room tonight. She is my firstborn. She is my heart. She drives me crazy. She a little sassy every now and again. But before I do that, I want to give y'all a quick synopsis of what this show is about tonight. In today's society, we often realize that we have relationships, and there's a lot of mental health issues that pass on from generation to generation. They call them generational curses, this, that, and the other. Well, tonight I wanted to bring on my baby, my daughter, Brittany. Say hi, Brittany. So we can talk about the mother and daughter relationships and how it affected our mental health and how it makes us grow and how we feel with each other and so on and so forth. Now, me, I grew up in a household. I have 2 brothers, 1 sister, and I could honestly say that I felt like I was the black sheep of the family. And my mother actually told me she didn't love me. She didn't want me numerous times. And it messed with my mental because I really wanted my mother's love. And I felt that I didn't get that. It hurt me to my heart. I didn't know what to do. I did some things that I'm not proud of to get my mother's attention. And once I had my daughter, now first off, I didn't want any children. I didn't want any kids because I didn't know how to love or how to be loved. And I didn't want to put that, how I was feeling, off on to somebody else. However, I had a baby. And she's my pride and joy. Both of my girls are. But I didn't know what to do or how to feel or anything like that when it came to raising children. And I probably did some things that was unbecoming and some things that my mother put me through to my child. So that is why we are here tonight, and we are going to talk about this. And so tonight, let me ask this question, Brittany. Let's think back when you were younger and be honest. What did you think about your mama, your grandma?
I really didn't realize she was on drugs until I got older.
They need to hear you though.
They can hear me.
No, you gotta talk a little louder.
I didn't realize she was on drugs until I was older. So it wasn't it wasn't in my face, so to speak. Like, she didn't never put in my face that she was, never seen her doing drugs. So it wasn't
right
in my face of oh, I seen. Now, as I got older, I realized, like, she had me in places I shouldn't have been.
Correct.
But it was never like, at that time, I didn't think of, oh, she's on drugs, until I got older, and it was like, okay, now I know this is what was going on. Like, this is why y'all were upset if she had me somewhere, or why. So it wasn't now, I didn't fault her, I guess, so to speak. Like, I didn't think bad of her. Because she never really showed me that side.
Okay.
Of her being.
Did you, now I know you have seen your grandmother and I argue. How did that make you feel growing up? Because we had some.
Honestly, I don't remember those.
You don't remember?
I honestly, like, I reading those questions, I'm like, I cannot. And I don't know if it's because you know how I am about painful situations. I just
block it out.
But I literally try to sit and, like, think of, like, a moment I can remember. I can't. Like, I honestly, and I was like, am I, like, blocked? Now, I remember, like, her getting this, so random, like, her doing my hair and, like, randomly, like, getting over mad because I was moving. I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm like, that's maybe she didn't have drugs that day, or maybe. But I honestly cannot remember seeing y'all argue. Now, I do remember her, like, when you moved her here, her always trying to apologize for it. And I always was like, I don't know what you're apologizing to me for. So I'm like, maybe I blocked it out, but I honestly don't remember you guys getting in an argument. Now, I know you guys did have, like, a straining relationship that I didn't know, but I never, like, I literally try to think of, like, an argument of seeing y'all argue. But I do remember her, like, always trying to apologize, like, telling me she wanted you to forgive her, telling me she wanted me to forgive her. And I'm like, I don't hate you. So it's like, I would never hate her. And I know, and it's not an excuse, but the drugs played a big part of your or her attitude. So it wasn't I still loved, like, you were still my family. I would still love you. So I didn't really, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Those arguments.
I remember an argument that she and I had, and it was getting bad. And I remember you coming in there crying, stop it, this is enough. And I think that broke me down because I didn't want you to see that type of memory of us.
And see, that's something, like, I don't remember that, and I guess it's because of how I cope with my own pain, and so I feel like I just.
So do you block it out and then hold it all in? Because I'm honestly, because I know, because you're kind of like I am, so somewhat. I didn't want to remember, so I blocked a lot of stuff out and held it in until one day it just.
And see, that's like when I read the questions, I literally was, like, trying my hardest, and I'm like, I don't remember, and I was like, I know that can be a form of, like, trying to heal or whatever it is, blocking. And I'm like, we lived all in the same house for a long time, so I'm like, I probably did see it. I just
don't remember.
And I'm like, I remember. It's just crazy. Like, I remember us all living in Granny's house. Like, I remember, like, little things. So I'm like, maybe I did block it out, and it just. But I'm like, there's nothing that has, like, triggered to bring, like, those memories back. So I'm like, I honestly cannot remember. Like, I literally tried, and I'm like, I don't remember. Like, I really don't. And I'm like, maybe I have bad memories, so maybe that's
no, you don't have bad memories. Now, as you know, when I went into the Army, you went and stayed with your dad in Aisha and stuff. But once you came back, how was it growing up with me once you moved back with me? Was it difficult? Was I how was it? Or did you block that out too, man?
No. I can say as I got older, this is all of as I got older, I just started, reflecting on my own life choices, my own life, and I just realized, in a way, it was kind of resentment, but it wasn't. Like, now that I'm older, I understand, like, you did what you had to do to get me out of Virginia, to get me out. Like, I tell people, I really feel like if I was in Virginia, I wouldn't have done as much as I did in my life, good-wise, that I've done now. Like, I don't think... Y'all made a joke when I graduated, like, hey, we got you out of high school without getting pregnant. But it's like, that probably would have been me if I was in Virginia. Like, I probably wouldn't have gotten a degree. I probably wouldn't have done those things. But as I got older, I had to realize, okay, when I have kids, what sacrifices will I have to do for my kids to have the better life than I have? And I know honestly, I feel like I had resentment because it seemed like what I remember. Granny died, you left, I moved my dad, all in like a whole...
Yeah.
So it was like I went from living in a household with my aunts, my uncles, my great grandma, my grandma, my mom, and I'm like, I remember always being with my great grandma, my aunt. Like, it was somebody had me at some, but it was in that moment. I always think, like, I wish I could go back to those times, because in those times I felt like our family was closer. I felt like our family was, in a way, it was, everybody knew what was going on in a way. Like, it was a village. Like, everybody knew our family in the neighborhood. It was a thing. So I feel like it was okay, Granny died. We didn't have the house anymore. I moved my dad. You were leaving. And then my dad being in the Navy. So it was like, my dad is out at sea. So it's like, I love my stepmom. Love her to death. I praise her for raising the kid that wasn't hers. But it's like, I'm living with somebody that is no blood to me. So it's like
Did you have a little resentment?
I did, and then it was like, then you came back, and it was like, okay, now you're pregnant. So
Gotta add on to that.
I have because it wasn't like you came back from basic training. I don't even remember you coming back. It was you went to Korea. I mean, I remember visiting you
in Fort Lee
somewhere. But it was like, it wasn't like you came back and then went to Korea. It was you were gone for like 2 years, and so it was like then you come back and it's, oh, I'm pregnant. You're gonna have a sister, and we're moving 3,000 miles away. So it was like in a way, I knew who my mom was, but trying to build that relationship. But then when in that way, we couldn't build that relationship because you had a baby coming, you were in the military. So then when my sister did come, I know Free stayed with us for a little while, but it was still you have an infant to deal with. You're a single mom in the military, trying to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Free either getting us ready for school, and then you come home, you do what you gotta do, and it's like weird. So it was a little resentment, I think, for a while, because it was like, I don't know my mom. Like, I don't have that real big relationship at that moment. Like, maybe that was what do they call it? Like a milestone in my life where we would have built our relationship. So we moved to Texas when I was 7. So it's like I didn't.
Yeah, no, you were 6. So I'm not 7.
So it was like I didn't build that
Yeah, because she was with your
I was
dad
kind
for a
of
while.
in a way had my own little personality, and so it's like now I have to
readjust
to.
Was there any time where you felt as though I didn't love you? Like once we moved back and sorry. Because I had Jarrell and then I had the military and I noticed sometimes I remember I used to snap at you and I used to do that and I remember mommy used to do that to me and I hated that, but I used to stop at you. Oh. So did you ever feel that way?
I don't want to say I ever felt, this is just gonna sound weird. I don't feel like I had any of these issues until
what issues?
Like feeling like that until I got older, in a way of me trying to find who Brittany was. Like who was Brittany? I feel like that's when, I mean, I had, every little kid has, I went from being the only child on your side, the oldest grandchild, to my mom has a whole kid now, and we're, so you have those. I have to share my mom. Like now I have to share, and I love my sister Deb, but it's like I had a sister and brother on my dad's side. My mom was just mine, and it was like now it's she's not just mine. She's my sister. So it's like I didn't feel that you didn't love me until, it's crazy. I feel like when my mom moved with us, that's when I started seeing like because I feel like you guys were trying to heal y'all relationship, so it was bringing your opening your wounds up. So then that's what caused us to bump heads, because in a way I feel like mama tried to make up how she treated you, a way how she treated me. And so with her living with us, you saw her trying to, like, she really tried to be that mother figure in a way to me. And it kind of caused us to have the issue, because like, this is your mom. Like, she should have been. So I think I didn't feel that until that of her moving in and like you guys trying to build your relationship. And I like I said, I get it now, because it's like, it was so easy for her to give me that love. Like, why wasn't it easy for her to give it to you? And then, like I said, drugs aren't an excuse, but I get it now. But that, I would say that's when I sometimes, like, I felt like maybe, like, if anything I do is just not good enough. Like, is it just, but then.
Right, because I felt that growing up with your mama too. Like, anything I did was not good enough. Only time it felt like it was good enough when she was giving me her negative reaction to something that I've done. But that's the only time it's like she saw me. And I know I didn't want y'all to think that I don't see y'all, but I had all that baggage. And I shouldn't have, and honestly, I felt like I shouldn't have had a child or any children until all that baggage was clear, but I had it. So that was what? Yeah, thank you. How was growing up with, like you just said, with me and your mama in the same house? How did it do that to you mentally?
I think it was just, the hardest part is you guys never made me feel like I had to pick a side, but in a way I felt like I had to pick a side, because she wanted so badly, and I felt for her because I know she wanted so badly to have your forgiveness. Like, it was plenty of times where I would go in her room and we would just sit and just talk, and then she would break down and be like, I just want your mom to forgive me. And part of me would be upset because I'm like, Mom, why won't you forgive her? Like, because I know but I mean, it's not a overnight situation, unfortunately. I mean, at that time she was already kind of sick, so it wasn't, y'all were building that relationship, but it was in the mental way, it kind of, I guess, at that age of her living with us, I started realizing, like, okay, she was on drugs then, she had me here. Now I'm like putting it together of, okay, maybe I shouldn't have been at that house with you. Like, so now it's like, okay, maybe in a way, I know you didn't mean to put me in danger, but it's like, you kind of, anything could have happened. Like now,
Right.
like those little memories I do have. Like I have a memory of Uncle Joe coming to pick me up and going berserk. And it's like now that I'm older, or at that moment I was older, I realized like, okay, this is really why. Like, this is really why. I always literally just thought she was just sick. But now I know she was literally on crack. You were, and so it's like I mentally, it was a battle of, am I wrong for still loving her and caring? Because I still to this day, like even though I know she wasn't perfect, I still love her as she was. Like it wasn't, I know she wasn't perfect. I know she did things wrong, but the person I saw her as she was getting, I knew she wanted to be better. Mm-hmm. Like I know she wanted to. So if she was evil to the day she died, I would have been like, okay, anger. But I know she wanted that change. So I guess, but it just in mental, I battle myself of, should I have picked a side? Do I pick a side? Because you're my mom. I'm, now y'all don't say nothing to Shameen, but I just didn't know if like.
Well, first let me tell you, you shouldn't have to pick a side. She was your grandmother and she loved you. She and I just had our issues. Like I said before, in the beginning when she told me she didn't love me and that she couldn't stand me and all this other stuff, and I resented her for that, and because I felt like she didn't love me, and well, she told me she didn't love me and that she didn't care, and the things that she put me through.
So I have a question for you, but now, Yomi, today, do you feel like she did?
What?
Like, I feel like she did love you.
She loved me the way she could love me, and the best she could do. She loved me how she could. She was but I must honestly say this, because we're getting off topic for a second. I don't think she loved me the way she loved your uncles and your aunt. When she looked at me with hate in her eyes all the time and things that just
saw herself.
She did, and that's what. And I think, well, that's what my counselor says, and maybe she saw herself in you. But I was like, I'm not a drug addict. But I'm like, I wasn't a drug addict. I don't use drugs. Now I did sip a little bit and take a little drink every now and then. But I wasn't I wasn't a drug addict. So how did she see herself in me? I don't know. But to have that, it just really ticks me off, because I'm like, I'm your child too. But worship the ground your aunt and brothers walked on. But me, it's like she could care less until I got pregnant, until I had you. And that's when she took all her energy and put it into you and still had me on the back burner. You see? So it was like, ugh, this woman will never love me. So it kind of messed with me mentally. And then I was like, now she's loving my child and she still doesn't love me. But it had nothing to do with you, because I loved you since your big head came out, because, your head was kind of big.
And that's how I felt. I think that was my only, at that point, was like, in a way with us all living together, I was like, do you hate me because mama loved me so much? She did literally.
No, she poured all her love, and I wanted her to love you, and I wanted to love you, but then again, it goes back to how she treated me. I didn't know how to love you the way you needed to be loved at that time. Even when I had Jarrell, it was like, then I have this child that has like special needs, and so now what am I supposed to do? I got one over, and I didn't know how to come to her and talk to her. So it was mentally, I was losing my mind, kind of, sort of, but not losing my mind at that time. So as a mother, you try to do your best with what you know. Do you think growing up that you could have come talk to me about anything back then? No.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. And it's not like, now. out. I mean, it's still some things I'm like, oh, I can't talk to my mother about that. But, and it's still some things back then, I don't want to say scared, but I was in a way scared to come talk to you about insecurities I had, issues I had, little that, we may think is, when I was younger, may think it was such a big deal, but you probably would have been like, that's just little things. But I was honestly scared because I didn't know, is she going to judge me? Is she going to get mad? Is she going to be angry? If she's going to, because it was, like I say, you're a very strong, I tell people you're the strongest person I know. You are really the strongest woman I know. So there has been things where I'm like, my mom is going to back then brush this off and be like, why are you making a big deal about it? So I didn't say anything. It's a lot of things I held in because I didn't know how you would react, and so to speak. And that's when it's crazy that you felt like you were the best. Like I just told you, I think last year, I sometimes, even though I know like my dad and all that, I felt like I was the black sheep. But then in the same instance of back then with Rel having special needs, I felt like I shouldn't come to my mom about these things because she has a child that needs that attention, like needs that. So I didn't think I could, and it's like so more so I was scared, and then it's like she's gonna basically tell me like, let's suck it up. It's not that big, like it's not that big of a deal, or it's not, or look at me crazy, and a lot of. But you want to be able to go to your parents and there be no non-judgment, like no like they be your safe haven, and so back then I didn't even like things like, me and my dad are really close. I still couldn't go to some things to him because he's not a female, he's not a woman. So, and again, he's gonna be like, why do you even care about this situation? Where it's like, no, that like the feel. So it's like, it was like a, you know what? I'm just not going to say anything. And I think that in a way, I guess, started building that. That wall I have, where I just, no matter, I'll cry for whatever the little second, and I'm like, oh nope, Brittany, snap out of it. And so I think that did start in a way. And now everybody's trying to get me to break it down. It's like,
well, you can't. Okay, so that was a bad trait that you picked up from me. But I'm sorry.
And I don't think it's a bad trait, because you really, in some ways, you have like things. Being an adult is not easy. So, but in some ways, like me trying to find a house, I'm like, no matter if I'm stressed, sad, or whatever, it still has to get done. So in some ways, I'll take that. Okay, you could be stressed, sad, whatever, for this little bit of time. Now you need to pick it, because I've seen you come home from being in the military and be drained and have 2 kids you gotta do homework, make food, and I didn't see you like, y'all, just give me a minute, and you take that minute and then stop. So it's like, it's in some ways, yes, it's a bad trait I picked up, and then in some ways it wasn't, because it's as being a mother, we don't. Well, I'm not a mother yet, but if I wanted, but the dogs. But when I want to become a mother, I have to realize like the job doesn't stop, no matter if I have a bad day. Because I know in a way, I tell people like, me and you, in a way, grew up together. So it's like, I know when you're having a bad day. I know when. That's why I get so defensive when it does come to you, and I'm like, tell people to stop bothering you. Tell them no. Like, and because I know your job doesn't stop. So I kind of, in a way, I get it, but yeah, I guess it was in a way a bad trait.
Yeah. Describe a time where you felt as though I was mentally abusive to you, and how that has that like shaped you.
I seen that question and I said, when did you physically? I was like,
physically or mentally abuse you?
I'm like, she want people to think she was just.
Because honestly, the reason why I posed that question is because as you know, your mama was physically abusive and mentally abusive. And I remember a time when you had, that year that you just wanted not to do nothing in school. Remember that year?
No, yeah.
And I remember you were just got out the shower and you had said something, and I went wailing on you. And if it wasn't for Mr. Jamar,
it was so crazy. Some stuff I really did.
He was like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm just sick and tired." He was like, "Go in the room," and he was like, he apologized, and then I came back and I apologized to you. But it was like I was so angry and didn't know why I was angry, because I'm like, she done already messed up. We already got a plan. Why am I this mad? We already talked about it, But I was really mad. But that's why I asked you that question. Do you remember anything? But
so I do. I can say I do remember. I'm not really you yelling at me. I guess it's not. You yelling at me doesn't really. It does something to me, but it doesn't, because and the way I think I get this from my dad, I just shut down. Mm-hmm. So I remember times, even now, when you get a little frustrated, where I'm like, she doesn't have to. Like, now I'll tell you, like, Mom, why are you yelling? It's not, but I remember times where I was really like, in my head, I couldn't say it, but I'm really like, this lady is insane, because I would really like not understand that you would literally go from, we could be having a conversation. In that year, I know I was thinking about that. I was like, Mama had died in 2007, so you were dealing with grieving. BJ then turn around year and a month later, my brother died. So
we driving to
I didn't know how to. That was not my first. Mama died was big to me, but it was like, okay, now I done got hit with two people close to me dying. Yeah. So I know in a way, that year, I gave up. I wasn't playing basketball. Really, my love for basketball was gone. Like, it was, and I look back and I'm like, man, I should have turned that pain into
something better.
Yeah. I should have turned that pain into turning up basketball. Because, like, Nada even used to say, like, Brittany, you were really good. Like, he would always, and I just, like, I gave up on that. Like, I gave up on, I know me and Mama talked about me going to high school. Like, middle school, I was good in class. Like, I had good grades. So it's like, I was just looking at that. I'm like, I had an AB honor roll plaque. And I'm like, and then that happened, and it was just like, yeah, like,
because then too, you never talked about it.
I didn't.
You held all that in, and you didn't want to talk about. First, it was your mama dying, and then to BJ. Your BJ turning around, and dying, and you had all that, and you never wanted to talk about it, and you started acting out.
And that's what I think. That's what I say. It was, I didn't want to talk about it. And then I was scared to talk to you about it because you were already having your issues. But it was like, I think that's when we really like bumped heads really bad. And it was, in those instances, I really like, I've always been the thicker girl. I've never been a size 5. Don't know what that looks like. Don't know where it comes from. But I've always been the thicker girl. So in that instance, like, I remember you would comment on my weight, and it's just like, Ma, I can't do anything. Like, I can't make my butt go away. I can't make like, if I could. So then in that way, it kind of made me
insecure.
I became self-conscious of, well, shoot, I'm walking around here with a butt and thighs. I don't know where they came from. And in a way, it kind of.
But that goes back to how. And you know how you say something and you was like, I shouldn't have said that because you thought about it and then it was like it's already out my mouth because your mama used to talk about me, about my weight, about how I looked, and I feel like I projected that on you and it was wrong. I should have never done that because I was doing you the way she did me, but I knew how it made me feel, and I didn't want to do that to you.
And you know what's crazy? It really, because it was plenty of times where I called my dad and I was like, I remember you kicked me out. And
I did.
And I was like, kicked me out with nothing. I was like, but what? And I don't even know what I did. And I'm like,
you know what?
I remember walking down the street and I'm like, this lady has kicked me out. And I don't, and then I'm like, but then this is where I was like, this lady's insane. Because then you came back and got me and was like, where are you going? And I remember like calling my dad and I remember telling him like, if you don't get me out of this house, somebody's going to die and I don't think it's going to be her. So I think you shouldn't come. But then I'm like, and then my dad was like, no, Brittany, like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? Like, you don't love your child? And then he literally like, Brittany, your mother, if you left, that would hurt her. And I'm like, she's going to kill me, man. Like, everything. And then he really like, my dad literally sat me down, well, not sat me down, but talked to you, and was like, the thing she's saying is not you. That's how she was talked to. And so me being 13, 14, in a way, I kind of had to, well, I already had kind of had to grow because you had Rel with learning disabilities. So I had to help, like you were a single parent. But in a way, that made me realize, like, okay, let me try not to take things to heart, but you're still going to take them to heart because I'm your mother. So it was like you would, and my dad, every time I call him, like, Brittany, I told you not to take it to heart. I'm like, she's calling me ungrateful, and I didn't even do, like, and it was just like, I'm ungrateful. But I'm like, Mom, like, I tell you all the time that I appreciate you. Like, you would just get so angry, and I would not know why. And then it would be, like, we had a conversation the other day where it was like, you swore I was such a bad kid. But when we said it, was like, what did I really do that
you were not a bad child
but
at
that time I was like, Jesus, nothing I do now that year, I like looking, I even say like, man, that year
it was rough.
It was rough, and I wish I would have, because then I had to play catch up a lot, and I was like, yeah, I got myself back where I needed to be, but I could have been better. But it was like that. So I think the mental part of where I felt like you were mentally, it was stuff you said of my weight, or it was like my weight, or if I did make a C, it was like, oh, now I'm stupid. I just made a C. Like, it wasn't, and I know like C's aren't,
they're not bad, but
they're not bad. But I'm like, I made a C and she's calling me stupid. So then that made me fear of, I could be at a 69 at the midterm. I'm like, Mom, but I still got time to, and I'm like, I'm fearing telling you at a 69 because I'm like, now she's, and used to say, I'm not raising no pretty dummy. And I'm like, but I'm not, but I'm not dumb. Like, I'm not. I'm like, and so that really, like, in a way, I think that put me to where I was a little, still to this day, I second guess myself. And I know it's not, in some way that year you wanted me to do better, but it was like I was battling with myself. But I was like, that kind of, those triggers, like now I'm like, oh, can I really do this? I can't really do this. And then like with my weight, I'm heavier than I've ever been, so to speak. Like my weight goes up and down, but I've always been like, I have days where I feel like I'm prettier than I have days, and I'm like,
and I feel like this is, again, it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing that I projected onto you. That I projected onto you, and I'm completely, truly sorry because I shouldn't have never done that. So how do you think our relationship is? Has it gotten better? Do we communicate more now than we have did before? Like, when did that transfer into? When did that transfer?
You want to know? I feel like a turning point was for our relationship in a way I went to Prairie View for a year.
Mm-hmm.
You were sick, and I came back. And I was so, my goal was, I told you, like, I don't want to be 20 living in your house. And that was always, like, it wasn't you were pressuring me to get out, but it was my own personal goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, in a way, that kind of a little bit, like, when I said, like, I upped and just moved to Austin.
You did.
And you were terrified of me. But I just was like, found a place, found it, and I'm like, okay, Mom, I'll be out of here. But I think that, in a way, kind of gave us you realize, because in I live also, I never asked you to, like, pay my rent. I never, like, now if it was like, Mom, I need groceries, I'll be like, hey, my rent's paid. I just need, I just need groceries. But it was, I think that was a little turning point. And another turning point I remember is when I came back, and I forgot, Rel did something. You were mad at her about, like, her grade. Because I realized Rel is really, you yell at her, she breaks down. Yeah. And that made me mad, because it's like, me, you yell at me, it affects me, but it doesn't. I can shut down. I can just let you. Mm-hmm. But me being her, being my little sister, that kind of, like, I don't want her to fear you, because you're all she got in it, so to speak. And it was one day we were in the old house, and you already mad about her not, and I know Rel was really skeptical because they thought she couldn't do stuff because people put in her head, because of her learning disability, she couldn't. So in a way, she wasn't trying. And I remember, like, we were all sitting there, and you were so, I know you were so upset that she wasn't trying, but in a way, you were kind of like, making her feel like a dummy. And I had to step in and be like, Ma, you don't have to talk to her like that. Like, she doesn't, and she spilled something, and you snapped. Mm-hmm. And I remember that, and I told Rel, I was like, Rel, just go, and I'll clean it up. And I think she was crying in a corner, and I think that's when you realized, like, I saw it in your face when you realized, like, what's wrong with, because then you were like, that didn't deserve you to snap. Right. And I think that was the turning point in our relationship. And then you starting to go to counseling for real, I noticed that, even though I still be like, Mom, like, some days I'm like, you're driving me crazy. But I realized, like, you were taking that step to change. So it made me realize, like, okay, even though, I'm so, like, I don't want to go to counseling. But
this is my thing. I had to go to counseling because I was doing things not only to hurt you all, but hurt other people outside the family. And I caught myself when I was at work and almost threw my supervisor over the balcony. But anyway, I digress. So I knew I had a lot of things inside of me that had to go to come out. And that's when I went into the hospital for those 5 days. Because I was losing it. I felt like I didn't know where to go. And all the issues with my mother and you girls and just so much stuff that I was feeling. And I didn't want to project it all on you all anymore. I didn't want you all to feel the way I felt. So I was like, let me go and sit down for these little days in this mental health hospital to get myself together and learn how to woosah and take a breath and talk to you all. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect, and I still have my days. But then I find myself now.
But you're never gonna be perfect. But I think when I realized how serious it was for you mentally when you went into the hospital for those little days, then I'm like, it's deeper than what my dad said. Like I said, at first I was like, this lady is just insane. Like, she is bipolar. Like, my friends would be like, I love your mom, and I'd be like, y'all don't know how crazy she is. Like, but now now that I'm older, I'm like, I get why.
But the funny thing about it, my friends would say they love your mama. And I'd be like, this chick is crazy.
And
she at home driving me insane, and y'all love her.
And I'm like, everybody wanted to be at our house. And I'm like, why? And then some people would see, like, Brittany, your mom got you a car. She does. I'm like, yo, but my mom threatened to call the cops on me and say the car was stolen. I was like, I'm like, this lady is crazy. I'm like, but I think that was a turning point where I realized, like, Brittany I had to take my feelings out of it, because I realized, like, you were hurting more than I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew, but I realized, like, okay, this isn't just on the surface. Like, she's really, really hurting. So the hurt that I feel, or the things that I feel, I could put on the back burner, because it's not going to get better until you get better. Mm-hmm. And I was you apologize all the time about how you, and I'm like, I accept your apology, because I see, like I said, with my mom, she was trying to make that change when she was getting sick, but I see, like, you're trying to make that change. You're trying to, like, now, even when I don't want to talk about how I'm feeling, you ask me 50 million times, are you okay? And I'm like, Mom, please stop.
I tell you, you have one day to cry or whatever. That I'm gonna give you that day, but that next day, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna work this out. We're gonna keep it moving. I mean, I know you have to cry some things out. You have to get it out, but you also have to talk about it. And I learned that in counseling. So counseling is good for people, okay? But she doesn't want to go to counseling. I don't know why.
Tried it.
For a whole
the kumbaya and circle, and then
you went to group counseling.
I went to group counseling, and I had that white lady once a week, and it was just like, lady, what do you want me to tell? Like,
but you have to talk in order to get counseling. You have to talk.
And I was sitting in the group counseling, like, these people.
Well, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I don't like group counseling. I do not like it. So I tell my therapist all the time, don't send me to no group.
I think that's what turned me out, because I'm like, I'm sitting here with people talking about they just cut themselves last week. I ain't really trying to kill myself, but, like, so it turned me off in a way. And like I said, now there's still some things that I, like, some of my close friends know, and I'm like, I want to tell my mom, but I don't want her to feel like, she should have been there, No, it's just, when those things happened, I was mentally, I didn't know where you were at.
That's right, Army. No group counseling.
I didn't know where you were at mentally for me to tell you, Mom, this is what I was going through, because that could have pushed you off your deep end. That at that time it could have. So it's like, and it's certain things that I know that I've been through that you don't know, that I feel like have shaped me, or it's things that we have. But I do think you going to counseling, it helped me be able to talk to you about certain stuff. Like, I would have never talked to you about you and my dad's relationship. I would have never told you, like, hey, I kind of, in a way, feel like a black sheep, because that side of the family, they see my other sisters and brothers all the time. So they have a stronger relationship. I'm here. So it's like, sometimes when I go there, I'm like, y'all are talking about stuff I know nothing about. Like, it's y'all have done stuff I know nothing about. And I'm like, it's not that my dad or you have ever made me feel like that. It's just, it happens.
Yeah, Reverend Major's one-on-one counseling is so much better. I love that. I can't do the group thing. It's just something about being in a group. I'd be like, yeah, I'm shutting down. This ain't gonna work for me. But one-on-one, and I told her that she needs to try counseling again. For some reason, she doesn't want to. I say counseling's not for everybody, I guess.
I think about it.
But I think that you need to be able to have an out to talk to somebody. Do you feel now that you can come and tell me things about yourself or about me? Now? Do you think you can?
Oh.
Do you think you can come and tell me things about yourself? Tell me things about myself? I'm on that one. Get out my...
Maybe I didn't read that question.
See, this is why, y'all.
Do I feel like I can... Yeah, I feel like I can... Now I'm telling you. about guys and stuff before.
Listen, let me tell y'all something. I tell my kids they can come talk to me about anything, even before. Now, my youngest daughter, she's free. She's a free spirit. She sees the leaves in the valley. She sees daisies all day long.
The girl
she is my
crazy.
flower child, okay? She has no care in the world. So when she has a problem, she comes straight to her mama. And I be sitting there talking about sometimes I didn't need to know that.
She comes.
You need to go call your sister. A little bit too much.
And she'd be sharing a little too. But I'm like,
and,
you know.
I get it. But this one, it's like pulling teeth out of. But I see myself in her when it comes to that. Because I'm like, I ain't about to do that. I ain't doing all that. But I want her to be able to come and talk. And now I notice that when she's feeling some type of way about something I did or said, I got a whole paragraph. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't read all that. You going to have to call and tell me. I'm going to read the first sentence. And then I'll be like, you going to call me and tell me this. So I'll call her.
And I don't want to answer.
And then she don't answer the phone. So I'm like, I keep calling and keep calling and keep calling and keep calling till she pick up. And then I'll be like, that what? And she'll tell me. It's not like I don't want her to tell me, okay, if I've done something to hurt my child's feelings or said something, and this now I'm learning how to be tactful. Because I have sometimes the facial expression in the mouth just.
And I get that from her.
So I'm learning how to be tactful to take into consideration her feelings as my child, as she's an adult, right? So she's an adult, but she's also my child. And so I got to balance the two. And I need to make sure that she's able to say, hey, Mom, look, you said this and this was not right. I don't appreciate that. You don't have to talk to me like this. You don't have. And then I'd be like, sometimes I'd be thinking, I'm about to not cut out this daggone thing. But then I had to regroup.
I remember one time I realized that my mama fight like a man and she's not going to keep hitting me.
I want to, I regroup and then I'm like, okay, I understand what you're saying. But I wanted you to be able to come to me and tell me like, Jarrell, like now, that little girl, Ma, you shouldn't have said that to me. I'd be like, what did I say?
See,
and then she'd be like, you said this. And I'd be like, I did? And she'd be like, yes, ma'am. And I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. And then she'll give me a hug. And then she'd be like, don't say that no more.
But see,
so I want them to be able to tell me because sometimes I may not see it.
But see, sometimes Jarrell, I'm like, nobody's mad at you, girl. What? Jarrell is so, we are different. And
that is hard.
We are very different. My sister is really, in a way, I'm emotional, but my sister is...
She's sensitive.
She wears it on
her
shoulder. I, on the other hand, I don't. Like Mom said, I said it's maybe over the years, I've done it so well that it could be something my mom says, something my feelings be hurt, and I will just hold it in, not brush it under the rug, but I'll brush under the rug. Now, it's times where I do get just now. It's like, will I speak to you about anything?
Mm-hmm.
It's some things that I'm like, still to this day, I always say about like, hey, I want to talk to my mom about this, but because I have in a way built that wall or how I deal with my emotions, I'm not very good at vocalizing how I feel. And that has affected me in relationships, friendships. I'm not very good at vocalizing how I feel. I'm more of, like she said, I can text her a whole paragraph of, Mom, you definitely just, like, she could say one little thing in the text message and I'd be like, I'm not 5, I'm 27 now. Like, I know, but I don't know how to, and I'm working on it. I don't know how to express how I feel. And I'm like I said, it's some situations where I still be like, I want to tell my mom about, but no, like, and I commend my sister because my sister is very, sometimes I'm like, girl, it ain't that deep. She called me, break it down, Mommy, girl, so what? That she like, but I'm like, okay, my sister handles
emotion
and my mom a different way, and my sister and my mom are very, very, very close.
Reverend Major said, start putting your stuff in a journal first.
Yeah.
Reverend Majors, listen, she a hard-headed little girl. And she be wondering why I be wanting to knock her upside of her head. I tell her to write. If she can't tell me, write it down. Not in a text message, because I ain't going to read it. Write it in a journal and in my reading section, because I am not about to. I cannot stand. I can't. But anyway.
I'm trying to find if I know I said counseling. I commend my mom for going to counseling. She needs it. But I
do need it.
I don't feel like counseling will help me because I don't know how to talk to somebody about how I feel. Like her, when she told me to come on the show, I read these questions and I was like, she really wants us to go in the depth about feelings? And that's why I was like, I'm not going to be sitting here crying with her on this thing. But I really literally sat there and I'm like, you know what? This is
I wanted her to be open.
It was, I'm like, okay. And I read these questions over and over, especially those first couple. And I'm like, like, I'm going.
She is what you call
an introvert?
No, she's a private person. She doesn't want people to know that things are going on. But I feel in order to help her or me, we have to talk about it. And then by talking about it, she can help someone else. And that's my thing, is to help someone else. How it is for a mother and daughter. Like, I was doing things and my mother was doing to me, to her. And then I realized I don't want to raise a child like that. I don't want to put my daughter through that. At 28 years old, I was still angry with my mother. I had a whole nother baby, lived in a whole nother state. And then when my mother got sick, where did she come? Here. So it's like, ugh. And I was like, I want to forgive her. And I didn't want to grow up and be 30-some years old, have her be 30-some years old and still resent me or hate me for things that you did in my childhood. And now we're trying to build on something. Like I said, it's never too late. Now, don't get me wrong. Before my mother passed, we were building our relationship, and I forgave her for things that she's done to me and said to me. But when she passed, it was like, God, now when we started getting this relationship going, we was getting this mother-daughter groove thing. You take her away. So again, that was another anger issue I had, because it's like right when I thought we were coming through, she dies. So that was another resentment, and I was angry about that. And I think that was another projection I was having onto my children. And then it was like, Yomi, you cannot. I never wanted to raise my daughters that way. I never wanted to, but I never wanted my daughters to be separated because they don't have the same father. Yes, I was dotting it. Okay, whatever. So they don't have the same father, and I didn't want Brittany to go to her dad, and I didn't want Jarrell to go to her dad. Well, I figured this out for myself.
We was not separated.
And so I had to figure out a way to do it with still having my children here with me. And he gets on my nerves, but I have to thank him, because if Jamar and my dad, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have went into the hospital at that time, because they actually held it, down for me while I went and started working on me.
I think our relationship at that time, like I said, I'm glad our relationship is getting better, and I think our relationship would have been a lot worse if it wasn't like my dad stepping in, my Mr. Jamar, granddad, Nada, like,
oh my God, and my brother Nada, he was a lifesaver when it came to things.
I was able to talk to him about our relationship, and
then he would come to me and I would cuss him out. And yes, I would.
And he would take that of her being angry at him because he knew
what
I was able to
talk to him.
But
he knew what I went through when we were growing up. So he understood, and he always said you needed to go get help. And I did go get help. And that was the best thing that ever. It was so much other stuff my mother had did to me that I'm just not going to put out there.
And I want to say, even though I didn't go to counseling, my uncle was my counselor. And now I'm trying to figure out in life how to deal with not having
him there.
So it is now.
That's why she needs a counselor, because not only did her grandmother die, who was her pride and joy, her brother died, and then her best friend, her uncle, her counselor, her whoever got killed. So she needs to have someone, and I want her to have someone to talk to, because I'm starting to see a little bit of me in her when it comes to snapping at people, and I don't want my children to be like that. I even tell my other daughter, get your life together.
And I've noticed, and I can say, having friends that, like, I have a friend that Kendra, she's really into mental. She's really about the mental. Like, she really, one day she literally texted me and asked me, and I told her this meant the world to me. She literally texted me and asked me, how was your mental today? And I was at work, and at that point I was like, I had to sit back, and you put the I'm okay. But I literally started tearing, because I'm like, well, girl, my mental is messed up. But I realized it's only been 2 years since my uncle got killed. And it was in the same month, 5 days before my brother died. So I still, like my dad and everybody knows, I still struggle with my brother dying. My brother has been gone
since 98. No, 2008.
2008. 13 years.
Is it 13?
I think. I can't do math.
Wait, that's 9, wrong. 10, 11, 12.
Y'all, I apologize.
13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 13.
Okay, so right. There we go. But I have not been to his gravesite since we put him in the ground. Now, every time, and my stepmom has even, and shout out to her, she has even told me, I want to say like a couple months ago, she was like, Brittany, you have to do this. Like, you have to go. And she was like, I feel like that's the only way you're going to let go. And I know for me, it's hard. I took it off. Oh. Don't do that, because I still be like, having those minutes, I took it off his own. Got mine. But I have realized mentally for me, and I told myself, no matter how hard it is going to be for me when I go, because I always say, yeah, I'm going to go see him. We're going to go to his grave. And we get there, and I'll be like, never mind, y'all. We don't got to go. I don't want to do it. And my dad and them, they don't pressure me to, because they know, everybody knows, I hold on to guilt, because my siblings, I never want them to, I'm the oldest. I never want them to feel like I'm not there for them. And I was like, I kept putting off, like, I'm going to call them tomorrow. And then the day I was going to call, I was at a track meet. My brother died. So those situations of my grandma died, I was playing basketball. Mm-hmm. I stopped playing basketball. Like, I lost the love of basketball. I was doing track. Could have been better at that. My brother died. I didn't put. But I feel like I was holding, Nada knew, like, I was holding on to that guilt. And then I said, the only reason with him dying, I don't feel guilty is because I saw him. I hugged him a week before. And I literally told him, like, you're forever be my best friend. But I feel like I wish I could have called him. And
yeah, that's my guilt. Because I didn't call him. And I was mad at him. And I was like, I'm going to call him tomorrow. But he died that night.
And I have realized that I'm a little more angrier, because it's like I don't want to say I have hate towards people, but I have hate towards, like, I don't know. We don't know who it was. So it's like,
it's not the hate, it's the unknown.
And that makes me angry. And then it is stuff that we have, me and my mom's relationship, that I remember asking you one day, I said, if it's something, what was something that you realized was a generational curse that you don't want to pass down to your kids? Because then I feel like my generation, we're realizing our mental a lot more.
I don't want to pass down that whole negative and degrading your children. I didn't want to. That is why when I seen it, I had to get it under control, because I was like, this is my mother all over again. And I am not going to keep putting my daughters through that. If I got to put them, I would ask JP, can you take both of them? Because she ain't going to him. But
now I'm older.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I would have been like, hey, because I had to get it right. I had to start healing mentally, because I didn't want to pass that on. And like now she doesn't have any children. And thank God she does not have any children. Even though I would love to have grandchildren, I want her to wait. I want her to be mentally stable to have children.
And I know,
because having a child is everything. You, from sun up to sundown, and even when they sleeping, you still a mother. You know, my grandma used to always say, mama's baby, father's maybe, and that's so true. Because the mothers are always going to be the one getting up, take care of them, they sick, hungry, whatever. So I didn't want to pass down that generational curse. It needed to stop, and it needed to stop with me. And so I wanted to make sure that in this, that I was getting my mental self some kind of stability, even though I ain't all the way 100. But I am getting better every time. And I talk to my counselor at least. So, like, I got a black counselor, and she be getting me straight all the time because she black and she ghetto. So, and I be like, how in the world? But she gets me all the way together. Okay? But that's what I think my daughter needs. She needs someone that can get on her level, so per se, and bring her out.
What I did realize,
and there's a lot of black counselors out there.
What I did realize is, during you going through all that, we weren't really affectionate.
Nope.
And so I realized, and we still have those like times where like you're trying to be all over me, and I'm like, Mom, what are you doing?
Yes.
But then it's sometimes where I'm like, I need that. That is what I was like. I don't, and it's not on, like, we're working on it, but it is, and I remember you saying, like, to me and Drill, like, y'all never want to hug me. But it's like, I realized, like, we were never, like...
We were not affectionate. And I never told my daughters that I love them. So every day, every time we get off the phone, before they go to bed, before I leave to go to work, I always say, I love you. My mother never...
But you didn't say it a lot.
But now I say it every day. My mother never said that to me. So I was like, I'm purposely, and that's something my counselor said, purpose in your heart to say that you love your daughters. And I love my daughters with all kind of limited, with all that's in me. So I try to make sure that they are loved. So anyway, we are over our limit.
Reflected, though, in
what?
My relationships, because it's hard for me to say that I love you. Like, I don't randomly.
Oh, no, I don't like randomly.
I don't, but no, like, I can say, you should know I love you, but it's like, people need to
hear, yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with saying, I mean, if you don't say it, write it down. I love you. Put them in the card. I love you. Give them a hug. I don't see nothing wrong with that. But you have to learn how to vocalize that. But I want to say thank you, darling. Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Our time has come to an end. My daughter and I hope you saw a little bit of our life, and it can help someone out here to be open, or a mother to get help if she's like I was and had that horrible relationship with her mother, so she can stop that generational curse and get mentally stable for your children. We're trying to be as open, as transparent as we can. And we all struggle every day. Every single day. And hey, Robert. And we are still trying. I'm still in counseling. I'm still going to try to get her in counseling. And I believe everyone should be in some type of counseling. You may not have to go for years like I do. You make it go for 6 months, 2 months, who knows? But if you need someone to talk to someone, because nobody should be doing this alone. And we are in, I say, a fight for our life every single day that God wakes us up. So thank you all for tuning in and listening to our crazy life and our transparency. And I want you all to know that I love you all very much. And I'll talk to you next week. I don't know if I'm gonna still do a mental health thing. That's what I'm still tugging on right now. But you all will know by the end of the week. I love you and thank you all. Have a great and wonderful night. Bye bye.